What's their biggest concern right now if you're the Harris team?
Republicans do have an advantage in early vote numbers. When the early vote come in, it's going to look a little bit different than 2020, and that's scary.
All right, everybody, it's the day before the election 2024, and I'm going to go ahead and throw my hat in the analysis that's going on by everybody. So here's what I see. There's a few items to look at and to keep in mind. First is the early voting, and this comment on MSNBC where the guy called the Republican turnout so far in the early voting scary is very telling. Let's dive into this a little more.
Lesson was just talking about the early vote. This is what happened in 2020. You had just shy of 159 Americans voting, okay? So far, right now, okay, no pandemic, no COVID, no nothing. You're at 77 million, so you're just about half of the total that we expect in the end. And among those, now there's a category of others, sometimes they register as independents, et cetera. But based on party, based on the states and early voting that report by party registration, Democrats make up 41% and Republicans make up 39%.
Now remember, in 2020, Republicans were not known for voting early. The early voting was overwhelmingly by the Democrats. So the fact that it's almost even nationally, and it's actually higher in some of the swing states such as Arizona and Nevada, this is making Democrats a bit nervous that what is going to happen on Election Day. Well, let's look at the RCP, the average of the polls right now. So as of Monday afternoon, the Real Clear Politics average, and this is the Battlegrounds Electoral College, it is showing Trump up 0.8. Here we are on Monday afternoon, and it's showing that. And if we are almost even currently and ahead of 2020 in the early voting, that's a good sign for Election Day, if everyone shows up to vote.
So what does the end vote look like? Does it look like 2016 where Trump squeaked out a win here over Hillary Clinton? He swept the blue wall, made it red, Southeast red as well. Or does this election look more like 4 years ago, okay? Here's Biden squeaking out a win over Donald Trump, okay? What did he do? He flipped that red wall, made it blue yet again, then a little bit of blue down here as well in the Southeast. And here we go on the issues, all right? Immigration, Trump. Inflation, Trump. Economy, Trump. Unite the country, Harris. And abortion, Harris by 20 points, 53-33. So we'll gauge that gender gap come Tuesday night into Wednesday morning as well. One last thing here on women. They've turned out by 53% to men 44%. This is not battlegrounds. This is all the votes that have been cast thus far at this point. Typically, in a national election, women make up 52% of the vote nationwide. So that's just a tick higher, and we'll see how it goes tomorrow.
Now, I do want to mention two potential surprises. One that's good for Trump, one that's good for Harris.
A lot of the polls are going to close in New Hampshire, and this was a state, again, not in the battleground. Biden won by 7. The Trump folks think this thing is a lot closer than most people are talking about. They sent J.D. Vance there today. And remember, in 2016, Clinton won New Hampshire over Trump. Of all the Clinton won states, none was closer than New Hampshire. The margin was just 3,000 votes between those candidates. So this is an early test, I think, for me on Tuesday night. Have we potentially misunderstood the non-battleground states? If we're seeing some kind of surprise in New Hampshire, I think that'll be obviously a huge development.
So you can see even MSNBC mentioned this concern about New Hampshire. Now, this is what I've been talking about all year. The independents are the ones that swing these elections. They swung for Trump in 2016. They swung for Biden in 2020. And we're sure hoping they'll swing back again towards Trump in 2024. And in New Hampshire, they are a huge force, so they could swing that easily. And you saw that it was extremely close when Clinton actually beat Trump in 2016 in New Hampshire. So things may have changed since then, and there may be a move in New Hampshire towards red. We'll find that out tomorrow. So the other surprise I mentioned is Iowa. There was a poll that came out this weekend that showed Harris up by 3 points in Iowa, which is just absolutely hard to believe. Trump won Iowa the last 2 elections, and there's been no indications that they're turning blue, let alone going up 3 for Harris. Now, the only thing that's really changed since the last big poll that this pollster did, and she's associated with the Des Moines Register, and she's highly noted and respected in the polling community and media. She has been very accurate, unfortunately, but There are thoughts about the new abortion law being in effect that may cause pro-choice people to come out and try to vote for Harris suddenly in droves. In her previous poll this summer also was when Joe was still on the ticket. So perhaps those two changes have caused Iowa to flip blue, at least in her opinion. I still don't believe it. But if that's true, could that be happening elsewhere in the country where we have similar issues with pro-choice voters, especially in Michigan, coming out and flipping the state or keeping it strong blue? And could it be simply that those people that didn't want to vote because of Biden but now will vote for Harris are out there pushing the numbers up more for Democrats as well? Those are the big questions that came out of that poll this weekend for Iowa. But again, it's an outlier. All the other polls show something different. And again, that RCP average I showed you earlier shows that that's not really happening. So we shall see.
Polls have been so off in the past few cycles in capturing some of this infusion of Trump voter that they hadn't spoken with and hadn't been included in their sample. And so they've tried to find ways to weight their polls to account for that and cut that number down. You don't believe that is that's the way to go. Explain it.
Well, I can control what I can control. I can weight to known population parameters.
By the way, when you say
So
wait,
we talk-
I think a lot of people don't know
Yeah.
what that means. What does that mean?
It will sound very anti-democratic. It's some people get a little bit more than one vote, and some people get a little bit less than one vote.
Showing Harris with a 3-point lead over Trump in Iowa. Some reports now questioning whether it could lead to a landslide for Harris. The New York Times Siena poll showing Harris narrowly ahead in the 4 states of Nevada, North Carolina, Wisconsin, and Georgia. Political consultant and pollster Frank Luntz. Frank, good morning. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Let's begin with these Iowa polls from the Des Moines Register. It gives Kamala Harris the lead over Donald Trump. You this morning are questioning the results.
This is such an outlier that if it turns out to be accurate, this would suggest a very strong tilt towards the Harris campaign. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I question its accuracy because it just runs against every other survey from everyone else. If it turns out to be false, we all need to hold the pollsters and the media outlets who publish this accountable. I suggest you follow the averages, the Real Clear Politics averages, which does not show this at all in Iowa.
It'll be an interesting day tomorrow, an interesting evening as the votes start coming in and the states start getting called. So hang on to your seat.